I've tested a dozen of coffee scales over the last years, and it's rare that I get really excited about any of them because most of them just look the same and do the same. But now I think I've finally found one of those scales that have the potential to become a cult favorite, and it's this one here, a scale with the not so inventive name Palm Electronic Scale. And the palm name kind of makes sense here because it's actually so small that it fits inside of your palm. So if you have an espresso machine with limited space on the drip tray, or you're looking for a travel scale, then stick around because you're probably going to be interested in this one here. And I have to say, it also comes in at a very, very attractive price. When it comes to these ultra small espresso scales, you didn't have many options in the past. The Weightman scale was a bit of a cult favorite. I think this is where some Americans would say, if you know, you know, but it was a super cheap scale that was compact, and it was the perfect match for a small manual espresso maker with limited space on the drip tray. For example, like the Cafe Robot, the Flat 58 or the Livapresso Pro. But while the Weightman scale was decent, it was also very basic, and it ran on batteries, which for me is kind of a deal breaker. Well, I actually did use the Weightman scale on a number of trips, but eventually it died. So rest in peace, Weightman. Then of course you also had these super high-end expensive scales like the Acaia Pyxis and the Buco scale, which are around $230 and $130 respectively. So pretty pricey. Undeniably sophisticated products, but also pretty expensive if you're a quote-unquote normal person. But now there's this new scale here that I think is very interesting for this market, since it's even smaller, well, smaller than the Buco scale, and more narrow than the Acaia, a little bit longer, and of course a lot cheaper than both of them, and it doesn't even compromise on any essential functions. There's not really much going on in terms of branding. It's a pretty nondescript Chinese coffee scale. The brand, I've never heard about them before. I don't really even think they consider themselves a brand, so it will probably become a kind of white label OEM product that you'll see under a lot of different names. I came across it randomly when I was browsing online, and first I didn't really think much of it. But then I looked again and I realized, hey, this is actually really tiny. In photos, it looks a little bit like a regular kitchen scale when you first see it, but up close it's just super minuscule. And this scale is great for a few reasons. First, unlike the Weightman scale that uses batteries, this one here charges via USB-C, which is always a big plus. It also has a physical on and off button. And those are two details that just make a big difference in daily use. But more importantly, it's less annoying than a lot of other scales. It does have an espresso mode and it works well, but it doesn't force you to use it. If you just want to use a regular scale, you can easily use it that way without accidentally enabling some weird modes or switching to ounces by accident. In regular mode, you just press the on button and then you start the timer with the timer button, and that's basically it. Nice and simple, like all other basic coffee scales. In espresso mode, when you place a cup on the scale, it automatically tears. Then when the pump starts and the first few drops registers on the scale, then the timer begins. And once the flow stops, the timer will stop too. There's usually a small delay between when you start the pump and when the first drops hit the cup. And it's a bit longer if you have pre-infusion. However, the auto stop function actually also has a kind of a 3-second delay, which some might see as a flaw, but in a way it actually balances out that initial delay when the machine starts. So the 3-second delay makes the overall time value more accurate. Another nice feature in espresso mode is that the measurement stays on the display for a while. As long as the cup is on the scale, the value remains visible, but if you remove the cup, the measurement is still shown for another 10 seconds before it clears the display. So overall, the espresso mode actually works well, but again, you don't have to use it. It's totally up to you. Since this is a scale, of course, we also have to talk about accuracy. So let's just do a few comparisons. So here I have a 100-gram measurement unit, and then I'll place it on top, and it's showing 99.9 grams. So unless you're selling diamonds or some illegal substances, this should be more than sufficient. Definitely enough for an espresso shot. Let's compare it to the Timemore scale here. So this is the Timemore Mini, the new espresso scale, also really nice. And this one says 99.8. Try again. 99.9 here. 99.9 here. Let's try another thing. Let's take the catch cup here. Let's see. 274.3 grams. And what is this one saying? 274.2 grams. In terms of versatility, it's a super light scale, but it can actually still handle a decent amount of weight. They claim it can measure up to 1.5 kilos, though I probably wouldn't push it that far. But if you're traveling and making poro for yourself and a friend using an AeroPress Go like I often do, I think this can also work as a drip scale too. It's a bit of a balancing act, so it's a bit awkward to fit a big carafe on, but it has this clamshell design, so even if the display is slightly blocked or the cup is sitting awkwardly on top, it can still register the weight accurately. But because the scale doesn't have a big rubber mat to insulate it from the heat, it's probably a good idea to use an AeroPress lid or something else, like a sort of coaster that can protect it a little bit. I've tried it a few times and it does work. I just need to find a small pouch or case to protect it, and then I think I'll be bringing it on a trip soon, because the weight is it's only 78 grams, and something like the Time More Mini scale is 230 grams, so around 3 times lighter. If you have an espresso machine with limited counter space, this is one of the most compact options out there. Until now, the only alternatives were either very expensive or lacked certain features. The Palm scale seems to retail for around $20 to $30 on AliExpress, depending on the vendor or whatever discount they have. I'll put links to some shops down below. I imagine some white label versions will also start to show up on Amazon, probably in the same price range. For what it offers, its capabilities, size and convenience, I think this is just a great deal and a no-brainer if you need a small espresso scale. This is basically the scale I've been dreaming about for years, and now it's finally here. I have absolutely no idea about who the brand is, never talked with them or have anything to do with them. I just wanted to share a cool new gadget with you. So that's it for today. I'll see you in another coffee video very soon.